Hey guys, it's Unapologetic Book Nerd again, and today, so many of you might hate me for my opinions. This is the Unpopular Book Tag. My friend Sanya Walu, whose channel I will link down below, tagged me on this tag of unpopular book opinions. So I have quite a bit of unpopular book opinions. I really love YA, I read YA a lot, but I also get frustrated a lot with YA, especially with the tropes and the way it's marketed and the way that every book seems to be the same. Disclaimer, I'm not saying that you're dumb if there's a book that I don't like that you really like. I'm not saying you shouldn't read the book. These are just my problems with these books and the way they portray certain aspects that I really disagree with. If you disagree with me on any of my opinions, please, please, please rant to me below, because on this channel, not only am I allowed to be unapologetically book nerdy, you as well are allowed to do that. First question: what is a popular book or series that you didn't like? So I read the first book of this series and I couldn't get into it anymore. Apparently it's extremely popular, everyone reads it, everyone really likes it, and it's The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I think when I read the first book and I really couldn't get past to the other books because it just felt as if a marketing team wrote down all the tropes that seemed to work for the YA genre and the audience and smashed it together in one book. And the thing is that tropes can be enjoyable. They're not the most terrible thing. It's just like, after a while it gets repetitive, especially if it's in every other book. The problem with The Red Queen is that it combines all of them. The tropes that we see in fantasy and the tropes that we see in dystopia, which in this book is a combination of both. We have the love triangle. We have the girl who doesn't have enough confidence in herself, suddenly gets superpowers. We have the girl is in a strife between loyalty between her family and the people she grew up with, to her new position of power, to the girl becoming a revolutionary, to the girl having another love interest. Now it's 4? It's too much. Everyone seems to love her. The thing is that this character in The Red Queen, I found her to be inexplicably boring and typical. However, despite all the tropes in The Red Queen, that's not my biggest problem with the book. My biggest problem with the book was the writing. The writing was a classic example of why you show and not tell. There were several times in the book where it just felt literally like the marketing team was trying to explain to me why these tropes would work, why they were deep, why it was important. She will go off in paragraphs of basically explaining discrimination 101. Like, oh, this is bad for the reds because the silvers hate them. Yeah, no shit, I already got that, but it's repeated over and over again, and it has very little bits of actually showing that. Sometimes I feel like in the book, Victoria Aveyard spoon feeds information, not allowing the reader to make conclusions for themselves, and I just felt that slowed the pace so much. It also made it very hard for me to take any of it seriously. There wasn't really an ounce of nuance within the discrimination between the reds and the silvers. And when there was, it was linked to the love triangle. Again, I'm not calling anyone stupid for liking this book. I understand why a lot of people like it. I just have severe issues with the writing. Question number 2. Now, this question isn't in the original book tag questions, but I'm adding it because I think it'll be interesting. What is an OTP in a book series that most of the fandom loves that you disagree with? Now, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. It's not that I have a problem with the couples as so much as the execution. And that is Rowan and Aline from Throne of Glass. Yeah, I know, they're perfect, they're cute, they're sexy, they're like everyone's fantasy. That is the problem with a lot of Sarah J. Maas's couples. And I know, I get it, it's a fantasy story. Yeah, there's literally elves. But the romance, despite the fact that Sarah J. Maas has made a lot of strides to make it be more realistic, and especially with its female characters in regards to romance, it still feels very fantasy. and a very much this kind of, I don't know, type. Nonetheless, the problem I have with Rowan and Aline isn't necessarily that as much as how it started. Now, I love the Throne of Glass series despite the fact that I have a lot of qualms with the series. And the reason is because of Heir of Fire. I love Heir of Fire. Reading Heir of Fire is a perfect book to study how to introduce a character, how to develop characters' identities and their identity shift in one book, how to also parallel that with making the world bigger. My opinion is what made it work so well was Rowan and Aline's relationship in Heir of Fire. It wasn't romantic at all. Now, I know that a bunch of you will be like, no, it was romantic. There was ideas, Aline will be like, or Selena at that time, will be like, maybe not. What there was just friendship. Them realizing that they were prejudiced toward one another, that they were being hurtful with one another, and they didn't really understand each other. And it was honestly more like a friendship between soldiers. It was interesting and different, yet very, very intimate, but not sexual. And that's what made it feel so different. It honestly felt like a relief reading about Rowan and Aline in a non-sexual way, in a non-romantic way, just their loyalty and love for one another. And there's not enough of that in YA. There's just simply not enough of that. And then comes Queen of Shadows, where not even a quarter way through the book, and the characters were just, separate for like 2 weeks. Did we get hits that there was something romantic? But not even romantic, it was almost always purely sexual. Felt like she was just rushing Aline to a relationship as soon as possible, and Rowan was right there. I wouldn't mind Rowan and Aline, I really wouldn't. And even now, with the most recent book, Empire of Storms, I feel like the romance between them two feels forced and makes both their characters flat, especially Rowan. Don't even get me started with the sex scene. If anything, I would have really loved Aline being with Manon. Think about that. What's a popular book genre that you hardly reach for? Mystery. I don't like murder mystery, mostly because I am so fucking impatient. I do know that it's all about execution, and sometimes that helps with the pace, but to me, I just find it very hard to get into. Question number 4. What is a popular book or series that everyone seems to hate but you love? I really like Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Yeah, I know, I'm picking a high school book. I actually really enjoyed it. A lot of people that in my class didn't really like it. They thought it was too dense. They thought it was too overdramatic, which it was. It was all of those things because it's Dostoevsky. He's super dramatic, he's super religious, but I loved it. And I really, really love how Dostoevsky's theme about arrogance, how when you're lonely, your defensive mechanism is to be arrogant. But how arrogance can make you do terrible things. I think that's a very honest and true opinion. I think that's a very real thing. And there's so many things that people do out of arrogance that hurts others. And Crime and Punishment is about a man who did something terrible out of his arrogance, who spends the entire book repenting it. And the fact that the woman characters were all symbolism, they were still very strong female characters for that time, and they were very enjoyable to read. And I really like Crime and Punishment. Who's a popular author that you can't seem to get into? Cassandra Clare. I can't. I'm sorry. I know she's super popular, but I also know that is a popular answer to this question. I've read the first book of the Mortal Instruments series. I read it in Spanish, and I still hated it. What is a popular book trope that you are tired of seeing? Well, this isn't necessarily a trope, but the way all YA, most of YA seems to write about this is how it writes romance. What I've seen with how YA writes love is most of the time it writes it in an unhealthy way to create drama, writes it in a way that makes especially their female characters become flat. They're in a love triangle. It suddenly seems like the girl's most important thing right now is who she will choose, and I think that makes her flat. And I also think that the love is just an excuse for a character to do something. I really hate the trope that love makes you do crazy shit. And I agree that love makes you do something crazy. But I also don't think it makes you do something crazy without reason. My biggest problem with love is I think that authors are not challenging themselves enough. For one thing, all the books seem to concentrate more about is romantic love. If they're gonna concentrate on friendship love, it's friendship love between two people of the same gender, and not always two people of the opposite gender. On top of that, you never see a non-straight couple in love. So I don't think authors challenge themselves as much, especially in the YA fantasy. I feel like in YA fantasy, they go for the safe route of picking a white female straight character. And I would love to read a YA fantasy where the main character isn't straight. I really hope that authors challenge themselves and try to see love in a different light. I think one of the biggest examples and one of the best examples you can look at a love that is unconventional and really smartly written is Kaz and Inage in the Six of Crows series. It is such a smart way to write love. The characters are, I'm not going to really go into it because it kind of spoils it, but their love enriches the story, enriches the theme, enriches the conflict without pitting these characters against each other in unhealthy ways. It's one of the most beautiful romances I read, and it breaks a lot of tropes. Last question. What is a popular book or series that you have no interest in reading? Is Shatter Me. I know this is a popular book series, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. I just think that the premise looks stupid. Oh, you can't touch people. Okay, that sucks. But is this going to be about romance? Is it going to really fall into that trope I don't like? If I'm wrong, let me know below. If you're telling me you gotta read it, it's a good book, it's not what you think, let me know below. And honestly, those are my favorite books. Books where I think is going to be so stupid and it ends up being smart and poetic and different are my favorite books, you know, like Act by Elisa Crew, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and hey, Crime and Punishment. I thought it was going to be a stupid, boring book, and it turns out to be wonderful. Okay, that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching the Unapologetic Book Tag. If you like it, please give it a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. If you want to rant to me and tell me that I'm completely wrong, then go ahead, rant. I don't care. Don't be an asshole. All I want is for you guys to engage, because this channel allows us to be unapologetic in how we feel about the books that we love. And that's what I want to see from you. So go ahead, rip me apart. I don't give a fuck. Do it.